no sense to make dollars and holler. On our grounds, rounds leave Moors dead in parlors. So-called blacks call them cracker, then get called Canadian, and shun Moors that say they're not Canadian. This world is full of crazy men with no knowledge of self, but got the most expensive cars and flat screens on the wall shelf, going all the way to try to help you change what you won't. And I hardly hear your opinion of Marcus Garvey, but Steve Harvey stands out, true, cool, and jester, making a fool of you and himself for wealth. To me, those sellouts need to get bodied or exiled to Dr. Moreau's island with Gentiles and reptiles. Fake slave ships stacking bodies and piles, giving fake Jews slave respect, not giving me smiles, calling children kids, chasing after Taji guys, supremacy, use albino and half-breed spies. We catch trespassers with razors and mesh, pedophile, torture, scotch bonnet, and open flesh. Traders get the shitty end of the stick. Our leaders, murderers, should have been crushed with pyramid bricks. Huey Newton and Hampton killers should be in front of a squad shooting by any means necessary. Get out the beast belly. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me yell comments mad derogatory. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me yell comments mad derogatory. It's all about balance, my eye the beam. Sellouts made it mainstream. Underground is almost unseen. Gay A&R signed the rappers' contracts in blood. Took his soul, body didn't fall with a thud. He's a zombie, dyed hair, dress wearing thug. Burn that garbage, too much to sweep under the rug. Police can't collar a crime without snitches. You're lucky to escape the custody, not dead with just stitches. Make you hate your hair, take Hindus to Dinesh possess you, and raising your blood pressure. Anything to do with Moors, they don't want you near. Don't search where it's black, you won't find it there. No matter how much you beg, they won't tell you where. No matter how much you don't have, they won't tell you here. Negroes weren't the first slaves, no reparations first. While you wait for your reparations, it looks like a hearse. They won't pay you reparations anyway, only if you agree to make yourself black and gay. Instead of towards Moors, they want you to stray. Won't find your mind when it's in disarray. Thinking being European is the only way. Hurling insults at your creator, she will get you later. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me yell comments mad derogatory. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me yell comments mad derogatory. What's the reason for the treason is the question and the lesson. I hear most professing, but really possessing. Taking minds messing with thought patterns and pathways. Nero wanna be a hero when they really cipher, not Neo, not Morpheus or Gillen finding Nemo. Selling out with no remorse, you and yours. Calling you black, showing you who's the boss. Always marching, but never thought sue the police force or do like Haitians. Add some voodoo, of course. You might hurt them unexpected. It could be bloody. Feel yourselves curl and your hair stand from walking duppies. Looked, all of a sudden, judge yelled and wept. In court, judge with cold sweats and throat strap. He can't talk yet, cause the candle was lit before I left. Forget Africa, hip-hop was the grand theft. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me yell comments mad derogatory. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you in F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me yell comments mad derogatory.
More and more I am being guided to study more. More and more I am being guided to study more.
See my Moorish flag flying like my Moorish cape. I'm not a Jew, but Jerusalem has a Moorish gate. 30 Moors on grill, call them Moorish fakes. Pull at Negroes' emotions like some Moorish drinks. If you really want to know, go to a Moorish meeting. You better have
Islam Moors. Islam, we'll stop it there because the more said it in the chat. The more said it in the chat. Couldn't believe why they're lying right now. Couldn't believe why they're taking the position of claiming that they're Moors, but lying. lying. We were the Moors, active Moors, Moors who been out here with this for at least 10 years. Moors who've been going at this for at least 10 years. Moors who have stood in front of the Magi. Moors who have stood on their square in certain jurisdictions. And them standing on their square assisted them. Moors who had problems with their wife, read their Quran about how you're supposed to treat your wife and change their life after they start dealing with their wife properly. Only did that because they were Moor, knew about their nationality and birthrights. So when I heard these people lie and say that you don't have to do status correction because everybody out there doing status correction is selling you a package, they're lying. They're lying. Not all Moors out here that give you access to paperwork that you can apply to your life so you can take your place amongst the affairs of men as a competent being that walks the earth plane. The status correction idea, concept has been around because when we came into this information, we got put on to quote unquote status correction. And that was 2008. We were put on to status correction. Now give honors, supreme honors, to Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs, Moorish Heritage and History School, Moors Order of the Round Table, and rvbaypublications.com. Because without these individuals, oh yeah, and as well, Islam to all the Washita Moors, if it wasn't for these Moors, that put this concept out there about status correction is more than you just have some card that says you're not the name on the birth certificate. Don't think that because you went into the temple and then they wrapped a Moroccan flag around you and then gave you a paper card that says a different name than the name on the birth certificate that you did a status correction. Moore came to the temple today with his paperwork to get witnesses or to correct his status. You think that the Moors who have corrected their status didn't have success doing that? Why not? I get it. I get it. People are starting to study for themselves, so they don't need these so-called people out here who got something for them so they can whatever. A lot of people out here ready to fend for themselves. Yeah, they're not even worried about what people mindset is about them or whatever. They don't care. They're Moors. You can think whatever about this. The ones that are in this, that know that they're Moors, But then they're telling you, they're telling you status correction. You don't need to do that, but they have a card with a corrected status on it. So these people aren't playing you. You don't need to do a status correction. Anybody doing that is trying to sell you whatever. So, as we know in the literature, Noble Ali said that all Moors are active, not passive. Passive Moors are the ones that don't have anything to show for what they're talking about. Passive Moors can't show proof. So most of the time, they're just talking. They're not showing you proof. Now, we told you, we've been Moor Science Temple of America from the start of this. We've been Moor Science Temple of America. People know Canaanland Moors. Because logically, as a Moor, knowing that there's representation of yourself somewhere by individuals makes you rep that place and those individuals. Now we had, remember, this is 08. When we came through the Moorish Science Temple of America, whether you want to put ink on it, whether you want to say 501c3, whether you want to say Elodie or whatever, it doesn't matter. Moorish Science Temple of America standard was you had paperwork to go with your nationality card. Grand Sheikh would sign your stuff. An assistant Grand Sheikh would sign your stuff, and Mufti would sign your stuff. You have, remember your Moorish Science Temple of America, right? Your Moorish Science Temple of America, but you have Moorish Divine and National Movement of North America paperwork. Let me see if we could do this. You have your flags, your seals, whatever symbols that represent you at the top of the page. Affidavit, appellation / name correction pursuant to indigenous nationality and Aboriginal citizenship. Remember, this is from the Moorish Science Temple. When we said go up to the secretary, 5 on the left, hand on the chest, that I am a citizen and all that stuff, and going through all the stuff that they want to make you think that, you know, you're going through your citizenship, coming back into your nation because you were colonized by the Europeans. So now, since you're back into your nation, we're going to bring you in and we're going to wrap the flag around you and bring you back into the fold of government as the Moorish Science Temple. But then when you leave, just remember, just take your fez off, put it in that bag and leave or whatever. Don't go out there wearing your fezzes and saying that you're Moors or anything like that, even though you just did a citizenship ceremony. What came with that was this paperwork. Now think about this. All the people who have their name correction and judicial proclamations, think about this. Just think about this. In 08, that so-called writ called judicial proclamation, all that, whatever, through the Moorish Science Temple of America was 23 pages. We'll go through some of those pages today to show you that Moorish Science Temple of America had the obligation to correct these people's status. So don't let people who are Moorish Science Temple of America try to tell you that you shouldn't go through a status correction because you're Aboriginal to here and Noble Drew Ali said that you're whatever, so that's all that you have to do and that's what it is. That ain't what it is. Ain't no Noble Drew Ali around jumping out no closet to assist me with some magi trying to take my head. I self-law and master. That's what Noble Drew Ali said. So if I self-law and master, then I better have let these people know who are the colonial vampire powers that I'm not your guys' Negro. You better do like the sundry free Moors and let them know you're not under their Negro acts. Oh yeah, that's status correction. Because they were classified as Negro. And they were like, oh, no, we're not. Oh, you saw us on the plantation. You thought that we were. Oh, no. That's not really what it is. That's not really what it is. Recognize that it's been done. We told you. All the people who's not going to tell you about Frederick Douglass and all the other slaves who did status correction in order to get out of slavery. In order to get out of slavery, they realized, hey, I can't be called a slave. I have to be called a free man in order to get out of slavery. I can't be a slave that's free. I have to be a free man to be free. Free slaves aren't free. This is what they try to make you to be in some of these Moorish whatevers that, you know, are doing the game of selling you this idea. The same way we got these papers for free from the Grand Sheikh and the Divine Minister and the Assistant Grand Sheikh and all the other Moors who put us on, the same way we gave it to people. Once they enter the doors and they recognize this is about nationality and birthrights, all right, you have to go read these. You go read those. And guess what? Most of the time, that turned people off. That let us know that they're not ready for this. You take these 23 pages. Yo, you want to be a Moor? Okay, here are these 23 pages. You go read this. That's what, quote unquote, nationality was for a temple that we came up in. Temple we came up in, Moorish Science Temple, every night the temple had a class going on something. That's what we're used to. Every night, some department of the temple had something going on at the temple for the members and the public at large. So they can just step in these doors, get interested, and send them over to the secretary. Oh yeah, you think this is a good one? Okay, yeah, you need to go talk to secretary. You're not even talking to Grand Sheikh yet. You ain't. What do you mean talk to the Grand Sheikh? You never talked to the secretary yet. You obviously talked to the Mufti already because he met you at the door. But you have to go up the chain of command because you're Negro. Oh yeah, that's the Grand Sheikh right over there, but he's busy right now. He has stuff to do. You could deal with me. I'm on the same level as Grand Sheikh. My name's just secretary, not Grand Sheikh. So you proclaim your nationality or whatever, sign your name, go by the flag, recite the stuff. Here's your nationality card. Here's the 23 papers. Well, it's free, so if they don't want it, they just throw it out, whatever like that. That's their business. They think that all they needed was that card, and now there are more, and that's what it is. That's what it is. But the depth that it goes when you start talking about being more, not just saying I'm that. Oh yeah, I'm more because you said it. That's what it is. Yeah, that's good magic. What about the deeper magic? What about the magic where you actually know how to manipulate the ethers to make the rabbit disappear in the hat? To get back to there. And that was part of you getting these 23 papers. Because by the end of these 23 papers, if it takes you 6 months to go through these 23 papers and look up everything that you thought you knew what that meant, and research things that you never heard about, just because you got these 23 papers, which is the quote unquote, status correction process through Morris Science Temple of America in 2008 when we came into Morris Science Temple of America. I can't talk for what anybody's doing today. All I know is what we did, and we were told that that's what Morris got to do. If you're really about being your ancient foremothers and forefathers, not just saying that you're that. And not just saying that you have this building called Morris Science Temple, you can go there and be a more there. Right? 23 pages through Morris Science Temple of America. Now, why would they go through all of this? 23 pages of stuff? Let's just go through some of the titles that's in this. So you get your appellation name correction pursuant to indigenous nationality and Aboriginal citizenship. You have the family given name in there. Recognition of your common law right to reclaim your free and absolute national appellation without application of some court. Where you domicile, the name that you're going to be bearing now, what you shall be called moving forward, affirming and stating that this reclamation is permanent. And it's not for any fraud or anything like that on my part. I'm just doing what I should do pursuant to the indigenous nationality, that everyone has a right to it. And all my life, I haven't called myself adjective. Former name, new name, blah, blah, go through the stuff. Your new appellation, sign, whatever. The next item, declaration of nobility, declaration of nationality, declaration of nobility, and diplomatic status. This is all through the temple now, remember. This is not some group of Moors out here. This is through temple. MST of A. Right? Stating that you're Moorish national, you have your Moorish government, you have your own jurisdiction as a Moor. Any disputes are in a treaty nature, you know, we're indigenous people exercising our right to self-determination, which is what you want. We're not doing something that you don't want. You know you're tired of taking care of the Negro. So fine, we'll be indigenous and we'll handle our own affairs then. Because we know you're sick and tired of the Negro, because when you start killing people in the street or whatever, instead of trying to fix their problems that got them in the position that you gotta shoot them in the street. So your noble sovereign status being put on the record. We're the Moors. We got hereditary birthrights. Why are you going through this? Because these people are colonizers. And the only way they got where they are is by us not being who we're supposed to be. So they were able to get the role of being the nobles. And you have to make this known to them. Trust me. That's why Noble Jwali said, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. That's status correction. Why is he putting emphasis on declare your nationality if you don't do anything else? Because opposite of a national status is a civilly dead status. Take your pick. Oh, you want civilly dead status? Okay, don't worry. They'll get you eventually. Drugs, some BS. They'll get you. Play that game. Because something happens when you correct your status. You become etheric when you take this position. Of seeing the divineness in what this is. See the divineness of what this is. We're going to go to the good Dr. Ali Melbay's book with regard to this thing about why you have to claim something. And it better be that you're a Moor. It better be that you're Aboriginal, Indigenous, and you're home. It can't be anything else. If it's anything else, you're going to have problems. Dr. Ali Melbay's book, The First World Order, page 122. Note, the following extracts are from a speech given by Jerry Gamble at a conference on human rights at Tobique Reserve in New Brunswick in August 1958. In this speech, he warned Native people about how this society goes about taking away the human rights of Native people. Presidential Race Commission has no First Nations representative. The art of denying Indians their human rights has been refined to a science. The following list of commonly used techniques will be helpful in burglar-proofing your reserves and your rights. So we could take reserves out and put Moorish Nation there, or Great Seal there, or MHHS there, or whatever Moorish institution, right? And realize we're being told how to burglar-proof our stuff. Because we know what we have as Moors. Other people who don't want to be Moors, they have no idea what they have. Just by doing a status correction, which involves you knowing who you are so you can be who you are. And there's an art that's in place for individuals to not hear what Moors are saying. Because what Moors are saying is raising people to the level of a living entity again, where rights can apply to them. And these people have an art of how to keep you in a denationalized status under the guise of they're stealing your birthrights. Not stealing your birthright, because they can't use the birthright. It's not theirs. Right? They're just custodians. You only steal something that you could use or that you can get rid of and get something for it. You're not going to steal something and just hold it just because you... What? You never hear anybody talk about selling the birthright. You can steal it. And when they start talking about selling the birthright, they're talking about selling your status correction. That's yours. Just like the birthright. So if it's yours, how could they steal it if it's yours? They can't steal it and it be yours at the same time. And again, Moors who have gone here realize the importance of recognizing, forget about the Aboriginal indigenous rights, the fundamental basic human rights need to be understood before you start talking about some Aboriginal indigenous rights. Because you're coming from the level of dumb down. Oh, so you want the Moors to spoon feed you or whatever like that, but you want to jump off the big diving board and you don't even know how to swim. You should know the fundamental basics before you get advanced. Indigenous rights is advanced. Why? Because it's dealing with self-sufficiency. Human rights is still, you can still mingle with other jurisdictions. Corporate or otherwise. The art of having your human rights stole is you abandoning your own stuff. They're not really stealing. They're just picking up what you dropped that you don't want to recognize that you dropped, even though Moore's been over here pointing at you. Hey, you dropped something back there. You don't want to hear what Moors are saying. No, they're trying to tell me I'm Islamic. No, I'm trying to tell you dropped something back there. It's your birthright. Gain the Indians' cooperation. It is much easier to steal someone's human rights if you can do it with his own cooperation. It is much easier to steal someone's rights if you can do it with his own cooperation. Now, his own would imply an individual, but no, let's look at this as a nation. And let's use an example. Islam to the Moors that study, once again, 10,000 men named George. If you've never seen that movie, it's on YouTube. Go watch that one. And when you watch that one, remember, gain the Indians' cooperation. It is much easier to steal someone's human rights if you can do it with his own cooperation. His own cooperation is these sellouts that are around here that's trying to tell you, you don't want to do status correction. Don't do that. Why you want to talk to the governor? Why you want to talk to whoever? Don't talk to them. You don't need to talk to them. You just need to be a good temple more and just go to the temple and pray to Noble Drew Ali, and that's all. And go sing hymns. Have you like docile with your own birthright, your own stuff. Right? And we know, yeah, well, you're violating act whatever, and you're Noble Drew Ali said, and he's wearing his fez and he's holding a beer bottle. Well, you know, I'm sure he read the stuff too. So everybody's gonna get there whatever they get for violating. You don't worry about them. They deal with you in love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. They say Islam when they see you, maybe give you a hug or something like that. Their dues up to date. They're always at the temple. They see something on the ground, they grab the broom, they sweep it up. They bring a case of water every once in a while. They cook some food and everybody's eating, you know, because one person decided to bring some nachos. I wouldn't be too worried about what that Moor is doing, holding a beer bottle and he's wearing a fez. If his stuff is tight like that, he probably gets a pass to do some stuff that he wants to do or she wants to do, because they paid their way. They know what their birthright is. They stood in front of the Magi. You tell them what to do with their birthright. When they stood in front of the Magi, when they got to drag out the car or whatever like that, there's still Moors after all that. Who am I going to tell them? Because I'm a grand whoever. Well, you know, you shouldn't be doing that because, you know, as Moors, we have to look, you know, like we're the most perfectest beings on the planet, because Noble Drew Ali said, you know, and Noble Drew Ali never had any creases in his clothes, so we need to. No, sorry. We're here to embrace anybody who wants their thinking mind back. But remember, that mind's not going to work until you correct your status. Just like people's minds so don't work that they're gonna make a table wear their fez instead of them wear their fez. And I'm supposed to take these Moors serious? That they're Moors? Your table's wearing your fez, but I'm gonna take you serious. Really. 1, make him a non-person. Human rights are for people. Convince Moors, Indians, their ancestors were savages, that they were pagan, that Indians were drunkards. Make them wards of the government, or we'll say ward of the crown, or ward of the corporate state. because they know ward of a government, because government's family. Make a legal distinction, as in the Indian Act, between Indians and persons. Write history books that tell half the story. The art of stealing your rights. Make you think that you're something that you're not. Make you believe without a shadow of a doubt that you're something that you're not. And that some guy that you know who is cooperating with your enemy has you thinking, oh yeah, I just gotta go get this card and then that's it. Now I got my status corrected because I bought the barcode card from this guy. Now I did a status correction because I have this card. So you're gonna show that card tomorrow. Yeah. So, but yesterday you were a Negro. Yeah, and I found out about Moors, and this guy said he had cards. So he said, if I buy a card, I could be a Moor. So I bought the card. So now I'm a Moor. How much you pay for that card? $25. You know what I mean? That ain't nothing. Got a barcode, the swipe works and everything. Oh, yeah, yeah. So let me ask you a question. Let's just say you were walking on the street and you fell in a manhole because the cover was off. Who are you going to go to? I'm going to go to the whatever. And I'm going to curse them out or whatever because what the hell are you guys doing? The manhole cover's off, whatever. Did you notice that big ass sign that they had right there? Telling you on this street, all the manhole covers are off. So you probably don't want to walk on this street or drive on this street or travel on this street or anything that you would do as far as going from one destination to another. You don't want to use the street. But if you use the street, don't say that we didn't put you on notice that, this was going on the street. You think you have some claim? No, because they had a sign there putting me on notice and letting me know. And I was a dumbass that I didn't look at the sign. I was looking at my phone and I was looking at the sexy girl because her ass was so fat or whatever. And I didn't see the sign. Well, same thing with status correction. You're putting them on notice. You're letting them know that I'm not a non-person. I'm not a drunkard. Even though I have a beer bottle right here, I'm not a drunkard. Oh, Indian act? No, I'm not. I'm not Indian. I might be Aboriginal Indigenous, but I'm not Indian. Oh, history books? What? Columbus Day? What do you mean Columbus Day? What do you mean celebrating? What? Who's that? Oh, that European? You mean that all the way down in history that isn't all the way down that was yesterday compared to the time we've been on the planet? Oh no, we have nothing to do with that and all that stuff. That's other people's stuff. We have our own culture. We have our own practices. You don't need these people's practices. You need to follow their stuff. Why? Because you're in this country of the whatever. No. We have our own history. We don't need his story. We have our own history. And our history doesn't say anything about that BS about we're non-persons and we're wards and all that stuff. Why? Because what you're talking about applies to Negroes, blacks, coloreds, African Canadians, African Americans, applies to them. I'm not there. I did a status correction. I put your superiors on notice. Oh, they didn't tell you? Oh, here you go. Now you know too. So I would appreciate when you're dealing with me that you address me in my free national name, not as some Negro. I greatly appreciate that. Yo, we don't recognize this because the court is supposed to be the one who says that you can. Oh, you don't want to read the 22 pages. It's a lot of paperwork to read, huh? Yeah. Well, you enjoy that because you're being put on notice. So when you come over on this side, watch for the uncovered manholes on this side. Because you've been put on notice that you're not dealing with a Negro. So whatever you get for thinking that you're dealing with a Negro, don't be mad. Right, I know what Jolly told them was, if you can't flee, drop the world on them. So it just not applying to some court situation or whatever. This is applying to real life. That I'm not a Negro. If you're not gonna take the taxes off because you're dumb, go call your manager. Let them do it. But I don't. Go call the manager before you get a complaint. Customers number one. Stop the BS. Because you're not about to steal my birthright. You might steal all these other Negroes in line's birthright because they don't know better. But you're not stealing mine. You're not stealing mine. 2, convince the Indian that he should be patient, that these things take time. Tell him that we are making progress and that progress takes time. Does it sound like your Negro leaders? How much time they gonna give? How much time they gonna give before they go out on the bullhorns and tell everybody what's good? You know, these people are definitely not going to be moving in our favor. So it's a wrap. I'm out of here. You guys need to figure out your own stuff right now because time for me to retire. Being your black leader guy as the roach crawls across your cereal. And they got you thinking, be passive. They got you thinking, lean back and just let whoever do whatever so we could eventually have something as a nation of people. Three, make him believe that things are being done for his own good. Tell him you're sure that after he has experienced your laws and actions, that he will realize how good they have been. Tell the Indian he has to take a little of the bad in order to enjoy the benefits you are conferring on him. Anytime they're giving you benefits, those are privileges. Anytime they're giving, they're controlling. That's just the rules when you play. So yes, thank you very much for whatever you're doing for my own good. Thank you for your de facto laws. remember, these same people who are against status correction are going to be the ones for the de facto laws. These ones who are against status corrections are going to be the ones pushing you to get licenses. They're going to be pushing you to be opposite of what you know you are. So if Noble Ali said, you are not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopians, obviously that's a brand too. And if Haile Selassie wore a fez, and then all the line of all the emperors have their own personal fez, somebody's playing games with you. Somebody's straight playing games with you. Exactly. 11490. Selling you out, your own. Working with the European to help your quote unquote human rights get stole because your dumbass wants to be a denationalized citizen. And you don't want to recognize that this is all about self-sufficiency. It's time. It's time. Time to be for self. Rights over privileges and benefits every day, all day. We are Moors. 4, get some Indian people to do the dirty work. There are always those who will act for you to the disadvantage of their own people. Just give him a little honor and praise. This is generally the function of band councils, chiefs, and advisory councils. They have little legal power, but can handle the tough decisions such as welfare, allocation of housing, etc. Right? So this is why when we build with the indigenous people, it never goes anywhere. Because they always have to go to their chief or their band council BS that sold them out. When we build with reserve Moors that are classified as Indians, they can't do anything that we're talking about because everything they do has to go through their chiefs. And if their chiefs aren't going down with it, then it's not going down. And that's just what it is in that. That's just how it goes. Unless they decide, you know what, forget this, I'm going to go off the reserve and I'm going to go back and join society. It's like I was thinking about the other day with people off the grid, you know, and then they, forget check my status or whatever. I'm just going to go live off the grid or whatever like that because, you know, I'm going to live in there's chemtrails everywhere, dummy. So you're always in the grid. No pun intended. You're always in the grid. Just look at the sky. You're not getting out of something. Right? And why don't the states go back to the estate? The states can't go back to the estate because the heirs to the estate are dumbasses. Because they don't want to recognize that they have a nationality, which ties them to that estate. Which once the estate's alive, all the states die. because the quote unquote black people of every state will be in charge of that state because they're the superior, they're the majority. You don't need the Europeans Democratic Party at that point. Have your own goddamn party. But this is the dumbness that's been perpetuated. 5, and oh yeah, they have 21 of these art of stealing human rights. 21. This is how, and remember, the first 4 already are dealing with, they have to have some type of cooperation. To destroy us, they have to have cooperation from our own. They cannot and will not ever be able to take us out if they did not have these sellouts that are working with them. The only way they can get ahead against us is if they have a sellout. Think about it. These are people who say that they know that they're Moors. They know that they're not Negro, black, colored, they're Moors, but they're dissing status correction. When they did a status correction, if they're saying they're not Negro, I don't care if they use a paper or not. We're saying you better use paper and put these people on notice. Don't just assume because you went into this building and you left with a card, that means you're status corrected. Because I bet you, when you leave the temple with that card, you're not going to your Job or whatever with that card to tell them that that's who you are, change all the stuff. You only have that card to show at the door when you go to the Moor Science Temple of America meetings, or go to the convention, or go to the whatever relative to this religious corporation, Moor Science Temple. The Art of Stealing Human Rights. Speech given by Jerry Gamble, Gambill, Jerry. 5. Consult the Indian, but do not act on the basis of what you hear. Tell the Indians he has a voice and go through the motions of listening. Then interpret what you have heard to suit your own needs. This is why Noble Drew Ali told Morris to study. Because if your mind is sharp, your speech is going to be sharp, and no one's going to be able to trim and cut your words up to make it suit their needs. It will not be possible. Guaranteed that. They will yield to you before attempting to interpret what they want for their own way or whatever. Can't do it. Six, insist that the Indian goes through proper channels, quote unquote. Make the channels and the procedures so difficult that he won't bother to do anything, which again goes back to number 2 about keeping you patient. So they always have a rain day. In case it doesn't work, okay, we know what we could do next in case that doesn't work. Immediately, they don't even wait. They already have this thing in play. And remember, again, they have the ones working with the cooperation who's relaying information to them so they know how to deal with whatever type of individuals they say they're going to deal with. Right? quote unquote goes through the proper channels. Make the channels and the procedures so difficult that he won't bother to do anything. That's how they beat most Moors. They just drag stuff out so long till you just like, and forget this. Because they know. Exactly. Because we study, we won't fall for the trickery. And majority, 90, let's say 90%. 90% of Moors who are active, they are how they are because of studying those proclamation papers, by studying writs, by studying written documents. And in studying the written documents, the information becomes you. So they say, oh, he's in the zone because the basket is like a ocean. When you can't miss like that, you're in the zone. You're in the zone when you study and line yourself up. Again, going back to this thing. The only way that you can be played is if you don't study. We've told Moors that come through the temple, the Moor Science Temple of America. We tell Moors, do a status correction. Even if you don't want to do it through the temple. If you think that the temple process is too strenuous on you and you want to do this now because you're ready or whatever, we say, Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs. You can start with going to rvbaypublications.com, and instead of having to go through 22 papers, you got 6 papers. Now, what we're talking about is status correction and the importance of doing it. So people talk BS about rvbaypublications.com, that they're stealing whatever and they're doing this, that, they're not sending back stuff and all that. Every package that you get a pamphlet called Protocols of Notice. This is for the people who think that status correction is some BS. And ask yourself the question as to if status correction is useless and we shouldn't do it. When we go through the protocols of notice, it should, after that, make anyone clear as to why status correction. And this is not a thing that one specific Moor created or his paperwork is the best, or it has nothing to do with any of that. This has to do with its divine first. Now, if a temple is telling you that you can only do it through them, like I'm saying, we are Moorish Science Temple of America. Matter of fact, a Moor today came to the temple today with his paperwork, judicial notice and proclamation to get witness. So what do you mean the temple doesn't, or the temple says no outside whatever? They're playing you because they want to own the people's birthright. Remember, like we said, they're working in cooperation. This is where the 501c3 and the Inc. and all this stuff now comes into play. That when you, across the board, if you're talking about Moorish Science Temple in this day and age, majority of them are not going to be dealing with things like status correction and national identification cards with a picture on it and all that. They're not going to be there. Because they've took the passive position. They've took in the past 100 years, they haven't done the work that Moors have done in the past 30, 40 years. Think about that. In 100 years that this information's been around, Moors who have been in it in 30 years have done more work with it than the people who had this for 100 years. Now this is not against the temple and you shouldn't be part of the temple. Like we said, we're Moorish Science Temple. We have a charter. We're not just some renegade Moors out here. We are Moorish Science Temple of America. We are Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Divine and National Movement, chartered. So we know what this is about. Like we said, any Moorish Science Temple of America telling you that, well, because I'm your Grand Sheik, you need to come to me for the whatever. You can't go to whatever. Like I'm saying, if somebody is saying, okay, like let's say, okay, a member of a temple, he's paying his dues and all that, right? He goes out and he finds some type of process that he says, oh wow, this process is interesting or whatever like that. I'm going to take this to the Grand Sheik. Let him witness this because, this is my paperwork now and this is what I'm going to use. As a Grand Sheik, I'm going to take that paperwork and critique that paperwork if it's something I never seen before. And I will critique that with a fine-tooth comb. And as soon as one question you can't answer, you just voided everything, big X through your paperwork, and try again. Yeah, but I was watching the video and you said, no, we're not talking about videos right now. We're talking about this paperwork that you just brought that you want me to witness, that after I read it, I realized that this is incompetence that you want me to witness. I'm going to be a witness for incompetence? Probably not. Probably not. Right? Now again, if you're asking them to marry you and your girl and they're saying that you have to be a member first, that's the wrong answer. They should be telling you that Moors don't marry. We obligate. So in order for you to be harmoniously unified with your mate through this process that you want to do, you can't call it marry. That's what they should have told you. Not, we can't do that because you're not a member of our whatever. That's not what they should have told you. They should have told you Moors don't marry. What do you mean marry? What do you mean? What do you mean by marry? Yeah, you know, like go through the whatever, and then I do and say the vows. Oh, you mean obligate? Oh, well, let me show you why we don't marry. Let's just go up in the law dictionary because we're a Moor Science Temple or whatever. I self-law am master. Every time you see a Moor, you say Islam. So obviously you deal with law. Okay, well, if you deal with law, let's look in this dictionary right here. And then you see it says right here, marriage. Okay, see that's a corporate state BS. That has nothing to do with you and your wife. You and your mate, you and your soul mate, you and your whatever you want to call it. And then there again, Moor Science Temple. If you're a member and you have a child, then you and your mate, quote unquote, nationalize your heir, then their free national name, and you're taking the quote unquote birth record, statement of live birth, whatever you want to call it, other than birth certificate. And then you're supposed to be able to take that document as a member to the Grand Sheikh and the secretary and the whoever, and they're supposed to witness that, and then that becomes your birth certificate. They put a seal on it and all of that. That's what Moor Science Temple is supposed to do as a member. Just remember, this is for members. There's not people walking off the street. You don't get this special treatment. It's only for members. Only for members. Right? So again, we're dealing with Moor Science Temple and this concept, status correction, and that MST of A is directly connected to that, because as a Grand Sheikh, I am always vizier on people's paperwork. Always been like that. I don't even know what they're dealing with. But when they reach me and say, hey, could you witness this? Depending on who it is, we might not even read anything, because we already know that this Moor is on his stuff. We don't even have to check, because we know this Moor is on his game. Yeah, bring that over. Witness, no problem. And they do whatever it is that they're going to do, because this is their birthright. This is their birthright. This is people's birthright. You don't own this. You can't get something because you're not a member. Well, it depends on what it is. Because out of, holy covenant of the Asiatic nation, you're supposed to assist your brother and your sister. Right? Don't trust those Muslims from the East or whatever. They're enslavers too. The problem is these individuals in these quote-unquote temples that haven't been doing the job. Like we're telling you, when we came in, you have a 23-page. You know how crazy it is? When we see people's paperwork today and people are complaining about, oh my God, we had the 23-pager. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? We had the 23-pager. And this was with Washita and Moor Science Temple. Right? So the 46-pager. Noble Drew Ali was a so-called Black Cherokee. Remember, this is all in the paperwork. 23 pages. It in itself is a book, actually. It in itself is a book. This could be a book called Morris Nationality Paperwork. 23 pages. And then it's on legal. So if you shrink this down to the booklet size, this is a few pages well. This was what you would receive through Morris Science Temple is the point that we're stressing. Because Morris Science Temple is trying to make you think that they don't deal with status correction. All they deal with is what Noble Drew Ali brought, and that's it. No, Morris Science Temple deals with status correction. Trust me. I went through the adept chamber. I know they deal with status correction. That's why they tell you when it goes in the adept chamber, don't let it come out of the adept chamber, because these people have been keeping secrets from people. It's not secret time. It wasn't secret time in '08. You guys trying to play secrets now? You playing secrets? You don't hold back people's birthright from them? Right? 23 pages. You say you want to be a Moor? All right. You go through these 23 pages. And if you come back next week telling me about, oh yeah, sign these or whatever, I know that you're front. Stop this. Stop it. Just stop it right there immediately. You tell me, I gave you 23 pages, and you tell me a week later, you're coming back talking about, yeah, you read those? Nah. I'm not falling for it. It was a good try though, but won't be falling for that. Especially knowing that we had these papers for a year before we sent them in. Dissecting this. Dissecting. Formal renunciation. Revocation of power of attorney. Furthermore, I hereby revoke, rescind, and make void ab initio all powers of attorney in fact or otherwise implied in law or otherwise signed either by me or anyone else as it pertains to the social security number assigned to me, as it pertains to the birth certificate, marriage or business licenses, or any other licenses or certificates issued by any and all government or quasi-government entities due to the use of various elements of fraud by said agencies to attempt to deprive me of my sovereignty and my property. I hereby waive, cancel, repudiate, and refuse to knowingly accept any alleged benefit or gratuity associated with any of the aforementioned licenses, numbers, certificates, without full reservation of my rights, without prejudice under threat, duress, and coercion. I do hereby revoke and rescind all powers of attorney in fact or otherwise, signed by me or otherwise implied in law, or otherwise with or without my consent or knowledge, as it pertains to any and all property, real or personal, corporeal, incorporeal, obtained in the past, present, or future. I am the sole and absolute allodial title freeholder to any and all such property. Yeah, let these people know. Take notice. Claim of right to travel. Remember, this is Morris Science Temple of America paperwork. In the nationality paperwork was right to travel paperwork. Morris Science Temple. Declaration and constructive notice of corporate expatriation. And then you had your picture on it, you had your thumbprint on it, you had your 3 witnesses, and then your seal. And then the card, the nationality card, would be with the paperwork. So the paperwork and the nationality card go in the same folder. They're together when these are being presented. Then somebody found out about Noble Drew Ali, said nationality card is going to change in your pocket. And then we started going to the hard cards. And then that's where our good friends at RV Bay Publications and Great Seal, National Association of Moorish Affairs, collaborated in order for the people to have access to a more condensed version of your nationality paperwork, which is now judicial proclamation, and there's still obviously name correction, because majority of us have this slave name, which is why we're doing the status correction, because we realize that this is not who our ancient foremothers and forefathers are, thanks to the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. So the protocols of notice. Due to the fact that the Union States, corporate state agencies, and quasi-government agencies have instituted the colorable practices of birthright theft, it is the natural people's best interest to notify or give declaratory affidavits of facts to all parties of interest. This shall serve as notice to principal and to agents that there shall be no assumed jurisdiction in matters concerning Moorish American nationals. So when these individuals pop out their little hole, sticking their chest out, acting like they're in control, when they're really playing you, because they're telling you, don't worry about status correction, and anybody who's doing status correction, oh, they're trying to sell you a package or whatever. What they're actually telling you is that it's all right for the corporate state agencies and the quasi-government agencies to assume jurisdiction over you. That's what they're saying. That's what they're implying to allow. Your rights being violated. Remember, this is a notice process. It's not a process of, okay, status correction, and then you did the status correction, and then you got the papers, and then that's it. With the papers came the instructions of what you're going to do and why you're doing what you're doing, called quote-unquote status correction. There's a purpose that it's done. There's a purpose that it's done. Remember, Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, this is divine and national. This is divine and national. This is divine and national. We'll go to Jose Pimenta Bay's Othello's Children of the New World, Moorish History and Identity in the African American Experience. Historically speaking, there were undoubtedly, or page 195, historically speaking, there were undoubtedly peoples within Moorish imperial boundaries who only used or preferred to use their own more provincial designates or ethnic names. But others, particularly those who possessed a greater pride for or awareness of the empire to which they were attached, would identify more with the internationally recognized imperial name. A quote-unquote subject's decision to utilize the term Moor would also have been closely related to points raised in Renan's definition of nationality. Renan said of nationality, a soul and a spiritual principle, the resultant of a long historic past of sacrifices and efforts made in common, and of a united will and aspiration in the present, to have done together great things in the past, to be minded to do great things in the present. This is what they're saying about nationality, which is status correction. You're not Negro, Black, or colored. You're Moorish American. That's status correction. Noble Drew Ali told the Moors this is a divine and a national movement. Why did he say that? Because everything that you're supposed to look through, or everything that you're supposed to look at, is through the lens of divine first, always. That's why a student of Noble Drew Ali, who's a Moorish Science Temple of America member, Jose Pimenta Bay, didn't have to go get some permission from some Grand Sheikh to go put out his book. He's a PhD. Which Grand Sheikh is going to tell him he can't put this book out and give his perspective? Look at the reference point that he's presenting. This is a PhD. This is a PhD that's teaching in a college today. That he's teaching in a college and he's known as Professor Bay. He's known as that. He's teaching right now, has a book, has a printed publication, letting the people know that nationality is a soul and a spiritual principle. A soul and a spiritual principle. The resultant of a long historic past. Noble Drew Ali said that word, we're 10,000 years old, our flag is. Some people say Noble Drew Ali said 50,000 years old. Regardless, that's a long goddamn time ago for a flag to be around. And us not have any idea about it. 10,000 years old, this stuff been around, and we didn't know about it. They hid 10,000 years of our history. How dumb were we for them to hide 10,000 years of our history? How dumb were we? Islam to all the Moors who got their mind back, aren't dumb anymore. The resultant of a long historic past of sacrifices and efforts made in common, and of a united will and aspiration in the present, to have done together great things in the past, to be minded to do great things in the present. In the case of the Moors, central political or governing authority within the old Moorish Empire was often challenged. Because of these internecine and political struggles, the empire would eventually deteriorate and fragment. This fragmentation of former Moorish imperial dominions has produced countries with different names, agendas, and worldviews, all of which were affected by European colonialism and Western hegemony. In addition to the name of what was once Moorish imperial city-state Morocco, has now become the name of a country. Consequently, its subjects appropriately identify themselves as Moroccans, yet cities such as Fez are still known to have people who call themselves Moors instead of Arabs. But the reason for today's emphasis upon Arab are clearly related to the increased emphasis upon Sunni Orthodox Islam, as well as the overall rise of 20th century Pan-Arabism in the face of Saudi political power and hegemony on the African continent. But there is also interesting analogies which exists between the Arabized countries of Morocco and Egypt. Both nations have been symbolically Arabized via their historic association with Sunni Islam. Both also share similar imperial histories of regional conflict between their northern and southern dominions. But more significantly, both the ancient Kemites and Islamic era Moors have had their Africanity increasingly de-emphasized by many Western writers since about the early 19th century. But defiantly, MSTA official literature publicly laid claim to the profound legacy of both African people and targeted the so-called grassroots blacks as the primary audience, tying us back. Tying us back. Because we have a place. Our problem is people don't want us to be in our place. All you have to do is recognize that this is divine first. Once you accept the fact that this is divine first, trust divine would lead you to where you're supposed to go. You will be directed to where you're supposed to go. Oh, that what I was reading was Othello's Children in the New World, Jose Pimenta Bay. And we will go back to the protocols of notice. In ideal circumstances, when government is operating according to constitutional limits, such protocols would be less necessary. However, big quotes, this is for all they don't need to do status correction. Anybody who's saying that, oh, watch out for them, they're coming to our chat to try to get you to buy their package from them. You can go to RVB Publications and download the Judicial Proclamation paperwork for free. You can find Moors who are in your jurisdiction and you can get them witnessed for free. Unless Moors are charging you to witness stuff or whatever like that, then hey, if you need a witness, I guess you got to pay. But they should be living by the principles and assisting their brother and sister in correcting their status, because they should have done that as well. But this is big quotes for the ones who say that you don't need to do it status correction or whatever. However, the fact remains that the opposite is true. Corrupt government officials and personnel at all levels, federal, state, county, and local, are consistently violating the Constitution, to which they are bound by law to support and uphold. So if these people are consistently violating the Constitution, when you know they have an oath to that, you're a Moor, you know they have an oath to the Constitution, but they're not upholding their oath to the Constitution. They're acting in a tyranny fashion. You're not going to take them serious. You're still thinking that this is 1913 Noble Drew Ali and Oscar the Priest and all that BS. You think that this is that time? You think this is the time where you don't have to let them know? These are not the same people that they dealt with. We are dealing with a whole new beast. We are dealing with a whole new beast. And their power comes from you being stateless. Their power comes from you being a Moor, but you didn't do a status correction. So they still got you. And then you're not doing a status correction because you've been convinced that Moors are supposed to be passive. Moors are supposed to just sleep, and that's all. Just sleep. Yeah, we'll just be Moors. We'll let a table wear our fez. Here, table, you be a Moor. I'm just gonna be sleeping over here. Table being a Moor better than Moors. Thus, necessitating the unorthodox issuing of writ on a massive scale. The point of the writs being sent to the various departments, this is for so-called Moors in America who feel they don't have to do a status correction, but they know that they're Moors. They know that they're not Negro, black, colored, but they're not talking about status correction because you don't have to do that. Why are we doing that? Okay, let's see why. Why are we putting these people on notice that we know are calling themselves government, but we know that they're corporate state agencies and quasi-government agencies? Colorable practices. The point of the writs being sent to the various departments is to notify them of criminal activities among the local and state officials. They have a fiduciary obligation to act or to pass the complaints on to the properly authorized government agency to investigate the criminality. If not, they too are in the conspiracy in such matters. The paper trail of evidence produced by active Moors and other constitutionally loyal citizenry affirms these facts for the record. Keep in mind that Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution also deals with matters of diversity of citizenship in controversies to which the United States is a party. Thus, the governmental positions of ministers and consuls come into play in international relationships, even in territories where different nations may be operating in the same territory. Be cognizant at all times about the rule of law that is key to dealing with and maintaining good government. It is called the separation of powers. The Constitution for the United States Republic of North America is based on that principle. A clear consciousness of this governmental principle must be present in the mental processes of all right law reasoning natural persons. It is also an important measure for distinguishing and identifying the barriers and limits of jurisdiction in all and any legal argument or controversy before any court or tribunal or subject matter in government. So it should be obvious that Noble Drew Ali saying that we are Moors was a status correction. Moors have advanced that concept to today because the corporate state started juggernauting because of sellout Moors who didn't do their job. So because these sellouts didn't do their job, here come The fourth and fifth generations after Noble Drew Ali. The fourth and fifth generations after Noble Drew Ali, right? So 40s. Remember, he left 1929, which is really 30. So 40, 50, 60, 70. Third and fourth generations that would put this thing back where it's supposed to be. So we're able to move forward without the stagnation. Because it will be moving in a realm that only Moors who study are able to tap into and get what they must get out of this. And every single Moor who I know that's active and is so elated about knowing about their nationality and birthrights, being a Moor and exercising their birthrights, they did a status correction. So I don't know what the hell any of these people are talking about, telling you about you don't need to do that. Don't listen to them. I'm telling you, don't listen to them. So Islam to all the Moors, peace and love. This was just a pop-up one because I was watching these people last night. I was watching them, and they were real mad. They got mad. Cut their class and stuff like that. Start saying I'm trolling them, and you know, I was trolling them. I'm not even gonna front because I never seen them live before. So when I saw them live, I was like, oh snap, let me get up in this chat or whatever. So connected with them more in the chat. And then we had conversations off the chat, you know, and they are Moor Science Temple. You know, they have a temple website that they push. You know, there was Moors in America YouTube. They I don't remember the site that it is, but whatever MST of a site it is that they're pushing or whatever. So we know, because we've been around since 2008, right? We already know that people send their people to try to cause confusion. So the Moors who they're under, they sent people probably 7, 8 years ago, right? They already sent people to try to shift this. It's not happening because we came up under Moors that studying was a big deal, because studying was how you activated the divine of this. And many people back then weren't ready. When it's time to study, and you know what I mean, you're going in, and you're going in that sunrise. What the? Going in like that, studying. Not this easy stuff that y'all got today. Push a button and let somebody study for you. We're talking about real studying. So saw them going doing their live, and you know, when they start talking about the status correction, you know, the stuff that they're reading sounds real familiar. So I'm checking them on, hey, why don't you say what paperwork you're reading? Because you're making reference to this paperwork and this status correction and this name correction, whatever, doesn't work and all that. So if status correction and all that stuff doesn't work and you're referencing some paperwork over there, why don't you just say what paperwork it is? You know, and when they started not talking about it, you know, so when they started really trolling them, started calling them out with the fez on the table and why they lying to people, and because it's just absurd that people, whatever it is that they're getting from whoever, whether they're getting whatever it is that they're getting, you know, from whoever sent them, you can't really play with Moors like they were saying the thing of, oh well, I don't even know them or whatever. Why are they over on my stuff? Because of whatever, you know, obviously we're doing something. It ain't about obviously you're doing anything. We're the founders of Moors in America. Go, as a matter of fact, let's just go see who all these biters out here who they just bite, right? All they do is they're just biters. They don't have any originality. They feed off of what we've done, the work that we've put in, they feed off of and then not give us any recognition for the work that we did. That's you're playing games. You're straight playing games. Because we've been Moors in America. Not just Moors in America. We've been Moors in America. 190 pages. Posted what? 2014. Where were you, Moors in America? 2014. Where were you? How come you weren't out so we could do a collaboration and put this book out when you put out your YouTube page? How come? Right? And again, let's just, you know, let's check the record. Let's just check the record. 2014, right? 2014. Islam to Grand Sheikh Nature and all the Moors. Let's see. People like to play games. Yeah, no. I don't even know who those guys are. Why are they trolling me? Oh, we're gonna troll you, all right. 5,000 subscribers, right? 5,000 subscribers. September 11th, 2017. Interesting day to join. Interesting day to join. Moors in America. 2017. Right? 2017. Khalifa Media. 2014. Moors in America. So these people aren't biting? Trying to jack energy? Energy jackers. Right? It's not, we're just saying that. Energy jackers. They go to where they know that the information's at. Extract whatever it is that they want to extract. And then once they extract it, then they're good. They're good now. Right? Or they're good now. All they do constantly, all they do is jack and don't want to give honors to where it is where they're jacking their stuff from. Why don't they want to give honors? Why is it so hard to acknowledge where you got your stuff? Right? We've seen people go in. We've seen people run here and they don't go anywhere else. They go right here. First thing right here. They got all this stuff right here All this, they got all this, right? They got all this, all this, all this, all this, all this, but all they do is they go right here, and then they go right here. Then they click one of these. That doesn't make you a more. Right? What makes you a more is starting up here. Start up here. Right? You go through all these. And you go through all these. And then you go through all these. Everywhere those little spinning stuff is, all those spinning stuff, you need to check all those. All those spinning stuff. All those. All the stuff where you say you can click somewhere. Forget about go down to the bottom, go get nationality card. All these, you should be going through all these first. All this. Remember, this is just the home page. All this you should be going through. All this. Going through all this. All those things that all the spinny stuff, clicking all the spinny stuff, listening them, downloading them, whatever it is that you do. You want to be more? That's what's up. Just go in there, get the card, you're not no more. You're playing. You just want to get out of some BS. Right? Right? So remember, don't forget, you're not just gonna go to home page and then just go through all this. Don't forget all these stuff up here too that you gotta push. Don't forget all those. Right? Right? It'll be good for you to understand what this is before you go down the bottom, start clicking stuff and ordering stuff just because you can put a fez on and take a picture at the passport office or whoever does passport pictures. You go through all this. Remember, this is just second tab. Right here, up to get. By the time you get to here, it should be maybe about 3 days. Maybe about 3 days might go by before you get to here. The second tab, which is national identification cards and proclamation sealing. First tab should take you 3 days off the top. And 3 days just being generous. Like we're talking about serious studying if you claim that you want to know about being a Moor and all that. 3 days. Right? So 3 days per tab. Count the tabs, do your math or whatever. And just before you get a card or get some papers or whatever, that should be a standard. If it's not a standard, oh well, ain't no big deal. Do your thing. This is your birthright. Don't come crying to me though. So we've been told you study. We've been told you better know what the hell you're talking about. You better know what you're doing. You're playing like you're just gonna do whatever you want. You go right ahead. You go right ahead. So Islam to all the Moors. I was gonna stop at 7:11, but now it's 7:22. I just got the second slap. Second slap. Yeah. We did it. Islam to all the Moors. Peace and love to the family. Give thanks for your time and your energy. Little hour that we could spend together today. Don't forget tomorrow, Canaanland Moors right here. Our temple class, which is Sundays, 1 p.m. And don't forget Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time. We're right here at 7 p.m. Islam to all the Moors for their chat muftian, regulating in the chat. I see, certain sultans, they went about their business because they realized that we're not the Moroccans from over there. We're not the pray 5 times a day. We might pray 15 times a day because, every time we say Islam, that's a prayer and we always build it. We're always talking with Moors. Peace and love to all the Moors. Don't forget, khalifamedia.com. Go pick up that Moors in America, the real Moors in America. Go get that real Moors in America on khalifamedia.com. Watch out for these fakers out here. Go check the real Moors in America if you want the facts. khalifamedia.com. Also go get all of Kudro L books just to show support. Because, you know, why not support? If you claim you want to know something, okay, we're Moor Science Temple. We're telling you where to go. Go to RV Bay Publications, buy every book. Don't front. You know, I already know you got a little line of credit or whatever. You know you got the credit card, 20,000 on there that you don't have anything on. So stop front. Stop playing. You already did your UCC1. You got your empty account with goddamn unlimited credit and stuff like that. So go buy every book. Go support. Go support. And don't forget willofallah.com. Go get that new Iron Sheik 7. Because that's out. The Alchemist. Iron Sheik number 7. As a matter of fact, go get the whole series 1 to 7. And also there's some free stuff on there as well that you could download. You just have to go through the site. And also morrisdirectory.com, publishinfo.net, moorcivilletter.net, and all the other Moors out there. Islam to all the Moors, especially the chat Moors. Love you, Moors. Give thanks. All the Moors out there studying who are going to hear this, Islam. All the Moors who are waking up. Oh yeah, and Islam to the Moor. Islam to the Moor that had me on the phone with some pastors. Because these Moors that are pastors are questioning, you know, their black stuff and all that, because they were dealing with a Moor. And Moor put them on like, yo, we're not black or whatever. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And the pastors are actually meeting with the Moor and talking about, you know, wanting to do things for the community and making sure that Europeans doesn't get in it. Pastors building with the Moor. And he's a newbie Moor. He's not even a Moor that's, you know, been on this or whatever. He's just a newbie Moor that knows about his birthrights, knows that he's a Moor, knows this pastor who wants to do this community work because he has all these so-called other pastors, preachers, whatever, business people that want to try to help. But they don't want to do what all the other people did in the past, help, and then the help doesn't get to where it's supposed to go or whatever like that. So the Moor put them onto nationality of birthrights. Yep, Noble Ali said it. Some of my best Moors are in the church. And those are some active church Moors that don't know that they're Moors. They think that they're black and whatever, help the black community, African American, whatever. So that should be interesting to see where that goes. Keep you Moors updated on that. But that was probably the most interesting one this week. So Islam to all the Moors, once again. Peace and love. Oh yeah, and don't forget 10,000 Men Named George. If you get a chance, check that one out. It's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Peace and love, Moors. Islam.
More and more I am being guided to study more. More and more I am being guided to study more.
See my Moorish flag flying like my Moorish cape. I'm not a Jew, but Jerusalem has a Moorish gate. 30 Moors on grill, call them Moorish fakes. Pull at Negroes' emotions like some Moorish drakes. If you really want to know, go to a Moorish meeting. You better have a pen and pad, because when active Moors speaking, it's wake up time. You won't find the Moorish sleeping. Crescent moon and star in the sky, that's a Moorish beacon. The way I navigate beats, call me Moorish Seaman. My nationality, I have the power, Moorish He-Man. Moorish turban, I'm royal, don't mistake me for bourbon. Moorish master MC surgeon, not a rapping servant. He's suburban, more than so determined to solve the Negro problem. Moorish white man's burden. Moors beans conquer, white rice, that's a Moorish plate. Black or more fish on the hook, that's a Moorish fate. Moorish estate before chapter 48, ancestral line. All secrets taken away. Moors are not clandestine. Euro-Masons go to back rooms or washrooms, returning black robes and hoods with cloaks. Moorish costume, you won't have it twisted once the Moorish got you. Desensitize the facts so the truth won't shock you. Some people call it awesome. I'm making it awful. Liar, lawyer, pushing the legal when Moors are lawful. Creatures give you ghost spell, she bring Moorish gospel. Moors are ancient, they even found a fez on a fossil. Even Bruce Lee knew he wore shirts with arms. Even MC Hammer knew pantaloons are Moorish pants.
I understand, man. I understand that nationality is the order of the day. I understand.
I've seen and heard Moorish things in this realm. I had to fathom in shadow eyes inside hoods. Moorish master phantoms, smoke swarms, swirling circle 7 forms. You can stay close, I'm gonna stay far from the norm. Tory and Astro, travel on terror, no license, no jail cell, no cuffs, no sirens, no watching over my back, trying not to get stabbed, no fence hopping, windows popping, wantonly nab. Moorish monk status, bad up any you who's baddest. With knowledge of self, Moorish Quran quotes, gun in my belt. Moorish naga, not a nigga. No shots fired. Telling officers they're servants and just hired. Easing back into his cruiser, Popo ego bruiser. Tables turn, Moorish status got him like the loser. It's a shame, many hear it, but only a few wake up from the dream state and do what Moors do. Fearing their own Moorish star, peasant, elevate. I'm staying Moorish, I don't care what blacks say. You can tell me, many Moors are running a racket. Or show me pics proving Drew Ali is a Moorish faggot. No matter how bad it looks, I'm not dropping this habit. Moorish Neo, wake up the streams telling me follow white rabbits, jumping, stumbling blocks. They call Holy Trinity. Moorish mind, soul, and heart expressing divinity. I'm Illuminati, illuminated, great seal more. All seeing eye from high, being the being I. Stand on swears and compass as Allah prepares the mind to handle demonic and those devilish stares, casting spells so I can abandon and give them my power. For Grand Dragon commanded from a Moorish tower, yelling Alfred Pike quotes, don't be surprised to catch me. Drawing Moorish pentagrams, reading Madame Blavatsky.
I'm a Moor. Nah. I'm a Moor. I'm a got sister enough to know it. And they gonna never argue with you that I'm not a Moor. And wouldn't come in your house or come among you and say I'm a Moor if I didn't feel in my heart, in my mind, in my soul that I am. God damn it, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm a Moor. So if I say it, I mean it. If I mean it, generally, I say it. You a Muslim? Yes. But I know my roots, and I ain't Kunta Kinte.
Yeah. Secret Society Productions. Do them and not just do me. Do them and not just do me. Masons think they add a blacks think they're national. Celebrating King's speeches at the Capitol. Don't have rights, so they act like an animal. Thinking they the baddest in the dead status. Won't listen when I say they brown, not black. Don't think they sound like a clown on crack. Won't realize since their third eyes closed. Don't realize they waste money on clothes. Children with ashy knees, most are obese. Moms don't cook but order pizza with cheese. And buckets of the cold chicken is finger licking. Till your arteries are sticking, heart stop ticking. They wanna play the blame game, but it's too late. Most still don't learn till it's too late. I'll let them do them and I'll just do me. Stay watching DVD lectures and fun TV. Let the dead do them and I'll just do me. My order of the day is still nationality. Let the dead do them, I'll just do me. Stay watching DVD lectures and fun TV. I'll do me and let the dead do them. Mixing their trees with the cigarette blend. I'll do me and let the dead do them, accepting a slave brand to identify them. I'm on Facebook, can't believe they so dead, talking without thinking, brainless heads, aimless threats. If you're black, you're a slave. Instead of humbling, they delete me from their page, calling me names, but that's no bother. Most are the return of emergency fund robbers, pushing the I'm black to cause friction. That's when I agree and I'm in the jurisdiction. They want me Morisco and at the disco. Caravana isn't carnival, no more calypso. The problem's not the world, but the people in it. Abusers of authority got the people timid, not behind the wheel, but giving themselves limits. Things I say make pop eyes without spinach. Too much dead to wake up, work can't finish. The first Jews weren't black, all their language Yiddish. Let the dead do them and I'll just do me. My order of the day is still nationality. Let the dead do them, I'll just do me. Stay watching DVD lectures and fun TV, I'll do me. And let the dead do them, mixing their trees with the cigarette blend. I'll do me. And let the dead do them, accepting a slave brand to identify them. The dead will do them like they've always done. Won't change unless in front the barrel of a gun. Won't change though Barack said it's that time. Youths killing each other, same content in their rhyme. Rappers mislead, situations critical. When we write that spelling spells are rituals. You might think not, I suggest every thought that you think should be done very careful. Before you give me an earful, my reply to kind of make your ears tearful. Stomach butterflies won't wonder why. Just accept the message from me from the Most High. That's why most die, cause they don't listen. Nicene Council Conference made you a Christian. Wicked Khalees got circling Kaaba fictions. All law is from Mahad, they say black Egyptian, causing separations and black divisions. Brown faces frontline on attack missions. The plot thickens, but it's thin perceptions. Got them spending less time on Drawley than Inception. Voting for candidates whose motive direction is to keep us at risk in priority sections and make us have an altered perception. Decepticons got Autobots with deceptions. Let the dead do them and I'll just do me. My order of the day is still nationality. Let the dead do them, I'll just do me. Stay watching DVD lectures and fun TV, I'll do me. And let the dead do them, mixing their trees with the cigarette blend. I'll do me. And let the dead do them, accepting a slave brand to identify them.
You sat down and you attacked the master teacher because you thought you heard something that you didn't hear. That's the first violation. You don't come in. First of all, you come in and you act like you come in peace, but you don't. You got an agenda.
Boys of men upright, independent and fearless. Dogmatized, dirty Moors, tongues cut out, left earless, cause they never listen. Dirty Moors, keep up your slander. Wu-Tang torture in your ass, hot hangers. Kidnappers, dirty Moor, torture him like Saw. 3D, 0.5 or 1 through 4. Or get it like 5 or 6 with a fez on jigsaw. Leather face in a turban, rip dirty Moors, lips off. Disrespecting the mother Raz Mariah Bay. Wrap him up like double crochet, the barbed wire away. Throw him off a bridge or feed him to the piranhas. Yellow journalists more spread nothing but propaganda. Idi Amin Bey, treat the temple like Uganda. Dirty Moors like foreigners, crush the dust like ganja. Not worthy of being Moors, we call them dirty Nehesus. Solomon Seal spell command 72 demons to get you.
This is what the temple guys actually said. That Canaanland is not a part of North America. Canaanland is bigger. Yo, it's ignorant, man. I mean, come on, you're talking about the same landmass. Canaanland is actually bigger than the landmass they know is the corporate United States. Almost twice as big. And if they had any sense, they can just go to Google and they can type in North America and find out North America goes all the way up to Green. But they're ignorant. They don't want to do that. They just dealing off emotion.
You might hear hoarse voices, see frog faces, and who's feet. Demons we run with spitfire with gold wolf teeth. Keep playing. Forget back teeth. New Moors are an issue. Get Ginsu. Maybe a dream visit from Vishnu. A nightmare to never end and always continue. Cold as an igloo. Dealing with my trust issues through vigilance. Active Moors are militants. SPLC dirty Moors call that sovereign citizen. Lying for views. They notice all the empty pews. shoes. Benz need gas and fixing, but not enough dues. Pigpen Bays sell you out for peanuts, claiming that we nuts for teaching birthright street level, keeping it beat nuts.
To any members of the MFTA that's out there listening to what I'm saying, please get it through your head. I don't have a problem with the MFTA. I got issues with
Teacher Kendrick Lamar, stay surrounded by pheasants. Dirty's guilty of fraud if dually scrutinize their ledgers. Getting proclamations from Morocco, disrespect us. Corporate city only recognize people's court jesters. Hand in their back, Moorish puppets and minions. Never get the human rights recognition like Moors near Virginia. Commonwealth, for active Moors knowledge, the Commonwealth. Dirty's claim more, but really on the straw man help. Authenticating a birth certificate, that's not significant. Civil little more two status syndicates. In more face, watch them two more status Indians claiming Turtle Island are lying so intricate.
long days and long nights. But this message needed to be heard.
They rhyme making no sense to make dollars and holler. On our grounds, rounds leave Moors dead in parlors. So-called blacks call them cracker, then get called Canadian, and shun Moors that say they're not Canadian. This world is full of crazy men with no knowledge of self, but got the most expensive cars and flat screens on the wall shelf. Going all the way to try to help you change what you won't. And I hardly hear your opinion of Marcus Garvey, but Steve Harvey stands out, true, cool, and jester, making a fool of you and himself for wealth. To me, those sellouts need to get bodied or exiled to Dr. Moreau's island with Gentiles and reptiles. Fake slave ships stacking bodies and piles, giving fake Jews slave respect, not giving me smiles. Calling children kids, chasing after Taji guys. Supremacy, use albino and half-breed spies. We catch trespassers with razors and mesh. Pedophile, torture, scotch bonnet in open flesh. Traitors get the shitty end of the stick. Our leaders, murderers, should have been crushed with pyramid bricks. Huey Newton and Hampton killers should be in front of a squad shooting by any means necessary. Get out the beast's belly. Why I get mad gory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you in F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. It's all about balance, my eye the beam. Sellouts made it mainstream. Underground is almost unseen. Gay A&R signed the rappers' contracts in blood. Took his soul, body didn't fall with a thud. He's a zombie, dyed hair, dress wearing thug. Burn that garbage, too much to sweep under the rug. Police can't collar a crime without snitches. You're lucky to escape the custody, not dead with just stitches. Make you hit your hair, take Hindus to Ganesha possess ya, and raising your blood pressure. Anything to do with Moors, they don't want you near. Don't search where it's black, you won't find it there. No matter how much you beg, they won't tell you where. No matter how much you don't have, they won't tell you here. Negroes weren't the first slaves, no reparations first. While you wait for your reparations, it looks like a hearse. They won't pay you reparations anyway, only if you agree to make yourself black and gay. Instead of towards Moors, they want you to stray. Won't find your mind when it's in disarray. Thinking being European is the only way. Hurling insults at your creator, she will get you later. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you in F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. What's the reason for the treason is the question and the lesson. I hear most professing, but really possessing. Taking minds messing with thought patterns and pathways. Nero wanna be a hero when they really cipher, not Neo, not Morpheus or Gil and Finding Nemo. Selling out with no remorse, you and yours. Calling you black, showing you who's the boss. Always marching, but never thought sue the police force or do like Haitians. Add some voodoo, of course. You might hurt them unexpected. It could be bloody. Feel yourselves curl and your hair stand from walking duppies. Looked, all of a sudden, judge yelled and wept. In court, judge with cold sweats and throat strap. He can't talk yet, cause the candle was lit before I left. Forget Africa, hip hop was the grand theft. Why I get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or glory. Making me comments mad derogatory. Why y'all get mad glory and your flow's mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you in Fab's category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or glory. Making me comments mad derogatory.